Hello everybody and welcome back to another Chinese history class with me, Tony. Last class we talked about Wu as the king. He grew old and died of old age. But before he died, he prepared to hand the throne to somebody else. Nobody actually knew for sure how his son Qi got to actually be the king, because but there are a bunch of theories, but nobody actually knows for sure. And a lot of theories said that he chose a bunch of people, but no one was actually sure how his son, got to be the king and his successor. Well, one thing that we knew for sure was that, the fourth king of China was ultimately Ru's son. And today, we're going to also talk about world events that happened in this period and the theories about how Ru's son became the king. Now, some people say that Ru wanted an old man who was one of his advisors to be the king. He was very old and even older than Ru himself, so that didn't make any sense. The people also didn't think that it was that good of an idea. So then Ru voted for a person named Yi to be his successor. The people thought that that was good, but then Ru's son, got onto the throne for some reason. And this is where the opinions split of how he accomplished this task. Some people say that Qi was jealous of Yi for becoming the king, so he sent assassins to kill Yi. Some people say that Qi even killed Yi himself. Another two theories are very different ideas than this one. One theory states that the civilians actually didn't like Yi when he started ruling, so they came up with an assassination plan and Qi became the king. The other theory states that Qi sent an assassination squad after the people or the civilians reported to him and told him that they didn't like Yi and he was doing a very bad job with being the king. Another group of theories was entirely different. They were based off of this idea. The idea that Ru actually didn't want Yi on the throne to be the king and his successor, but rather his own son. He did it anyway to gain civilian favor and not piss them off. Ru wanted to seem good and do what Yao and Shun did to test people and get people who aren't their children to be on the throne and be the next king, but only he seemed that on the cover. And two theories are based off of this idea actually had one change, and it's actually a pretty major change. Both theories stated that Ru didn't want Yi to be the next king as his successor, but didn't quite want his son to be the next king either. Here is where the theories split. Number one, Yi sent an assassination to kill the person that Ru wanted to be the king. Ru didn't know that this happened or that his son sent the assassination squad, but he was pretty desperate and he didn't want Yi to be the king, so he decided just to help Qi in becoming the next king. The second theory stated that Ru originally wanted another person to be the king, but then Qi convinced him that he was a better fit, so Ru got Qi onto the throne after they sent an assassination squad to kill Yi. Well, all these are just theories. Nobody really knows for sure which one is true. But which theory do you think is the most possible? I think the one with Qi becoming jealous of Yi for being the king and sending the assassination squad after him was the most possible. But again, these are just theories. Just because that I think this doesn't mean it's the right answer. And if you think differently, be sure to share your answer in the comments. We don't actually know what happened because these are all just theories, and all the theories are actually taken from historical proof, but there aren't just enough proof for it to be 100% correct, not even 90% correct. So the one thing that we know was that Qi became the fourth king of China, and this is where things start to change, because the first three kings, Yao and Shun, the first two kings to be exact, passed down the throne not to their children. They let somebody else take over their throne that wasn't related to them in any way, except that, they're friends. So that was a pretty major change there, because Ru's son became the next king. Well, do you all remember Xia from the last lesson? This major event made Xia even more of a dynasty and defined what a dynasty really was. Speaking of which, what do you think actually defines a dynasty? A. Dynasties are periods of time where the son or daughter, or basically the child, of the king or emperor after the current king or emperor retires or dies. B. Dynasties are periods of time where a single king or emperor rules. When he passes on the throne to another person, a new dynasty starts. C. Dynasties are the cities that a certain king or emperor owns. And D. A dynasty is a fancy word for the throne which the king or the emperor sits on. The dynasty represents the power the king or the emperor has. And I'll give you 10 seconds to think about it and answer this question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, time's up. The correct answer was A. Dynasties are periods of time where the son or daughter, basically the child of the king or emperor, becomes the next king or emperor after the current king or emperor retires or dies. Oof, a mouthful there. Here's some important information for you to know, because we're getting into the dynasty business now. From the mythical times of Huangdi to the end of the last dynasty, Qin, there were a total of 4,643 years, and within them, 83 different regimes or political titles, and 559 rulers. 397 of them were emperors and 162 of them were kings. Wow, that's a lot of information to take in, isn't it? And I'm not going to ask you to memorize that, but this is, like I said before, some really important information, and you don't have to memorize the exact same thing. You could just say, oh, the entire history was about 5,000 years, and there were about 80 different political parties, about 560, about 600 rulers, 400 emperors, 150 kings, things like that. You don't have to memorize the exact of it, but this is some pretty important information, and basically an overview of the change in the dynasties of China. And I've talked a lot about Chinese history now, throughout the past couple classes, and there are other things, that are happening in the world during the time of the Xia dynasty. They aren't the only dynasty to be active, to be exact. For example, when the Xia dynasty really began, the pharaoh Mirakari, I don't really know how to pronounce that. The pharaoh Mirakari Merikeri of Egypt died, ending the 10th dynasty of Egypt. Yes, they're already in their 10th dynasty now. When the Xia dynasty, and from 2034 BC to 2004 BC, there was a, you guessed it, 30-year war between and the Amorites. Now, is a Mesopotamian city, and the Amorites were ancient people from Syria who occupied parts of southern Mesopotamia. They established famous cities like Babylon. Anyways, this 30-year-long war resulted in ultimately being destroyed. And it was around this time that, when the war ended, that the pharaoh Mentuhotep II of Egypt died, and ending the 11th dynasty of Egypt. Wow, that was actually considerably quick, a 30-year period. About a 36-year period, to be exact. Not really exact, but just calculating here, just estimating. And in 2000 BC, about 4 years after this happened, and 40 years after the Xia dynasty began, the Aegean Bronze Age ended. And the Aegean civilization is a generalization of the Bronze Age Greek civilizations around the Aegean Sea. And those events were pretty major. 2 dynasties of Egypt, a 30-year war, wow, that's massive, and the ending of Bronze Ages. Well, anyways, that's it for today. This video's been considerably long compared to the others. See you all next time.